Welcome to another episode of the official Preston North End podcast, PNE Pod. My name's Niall McCorn. Joining me, as always, former Deepdale striker Neil Mellor. And what a guest we've got today, Mick Baz Rathbone. We find out why he's called Baz. What a character. So many stories. Brilliant.
Funny. I was never at North End when he was at North End. You know, he was here as a player, here as a physio. The lads that have been around him say, oh, great character. One of the top characters, really, really funny. But a good player and a good physio as well. He might not admit it, and I don't think he does in the podcast, but he was an absolute character. Some very funny stories.
The one thing he does admit is how low his confidence was when he came through as a player. Massive Birmingham City fan as a young man. Actively avoided the manager because he didn't want to be picked. He didn't want to play. Said he got jelly legs. He had no confidence. He was on the floor. Ended up turning into a physio, and his perspective on the game completely changed.
Yeah, amazing to hear how honest he was, you know, in terms of, you know, maybe not rating himself as a player, you know, a former England manager telling him exactly what he thought of him. You know, that in itself was interesting. Spent many years at Blackburn before he arrived at North End, and that was where he of course got his nickname of Baz at Blackburn, not at North End.
Listen, there's loads to go through with Baz, so we're not going to talk about this any longer. We're going to get stuck straight into the chat. Here is the man himself. This is Mick Rathbone on PNE Pod.
I wanted to leave Blackburn, but I didn't want to move house. So Preston were interested. So you've got this awful environment whereby Blackburn want me to stay, and they're trying to build up the value of me in this preamble before the meeting and the judgment, and Preston are doing the opposite. So Blackburn is saying, we want £100,000 for Baz, is this, is that, and Preston is saying, we'll give you 10 grand because he's 30 now, his legs are gone, he's this, that, the other, like, you know, and he's bald. No, they didn't. That was a joke. They didn't say that. So then you've got this awful experience. You go to the LFA, and it was at St Anne's, wasn't it? And you have to go in, and you're in the waiting room, and the manager of Blackburn and the chairman are glaring at the Preston people. There's a lot of acrimony, and I'm kind of sat in the middle, God, praying.
What's this, to find out how much you're worth?
Yeah, to see what the fee's like. It's unconditional as well. What they decide, they're paying for you. So I'm thinking, please make it low, because I've got no confidence. You've probably picked that up by now. Please make it low. I can't go on a big fee. I can't perform on a big fee. Like, you know, please make it low. So I have to go in and give my opinion. So I think, right, drive down the fee, like, you know. So I'm saying, right, they say, what do you think? I said,
but
well,
you're getting a percentage of the fee. Am I right in still thinking that or not?
Yeah, but I wasn't even bothered about that, mate. I wasn't even bothered about that. So I go in there and I say, look, I'm 30 now. They got me for 40,000. I've played 300 games for them. I think the fee should be a really, really low fee, like, you know. Then I have to go out, and John McGrath's the manager then, and the chairman's Keith Leeming. And Keith Leeming goes, okay, he goes, go and sit in the Jag, and we're going to sort this out now. So I go out, go and sit in this big Jag. I'm sat in the back seat, shaking with fear. Please be low, please be low, please be low. I can't perform if it's a big fee. Anyway, about half an hour later, they've gone in, they've give their to in and fro, and it's acrimonious and that. And then the chairman comes out, he's got his big cigar, he sits in the driver's seat, and John McGrath sits next to him, and they don't speak for what seemed like half an hour. And then Keith Leeming turns to John McGrath, he goes, oh, well, John, he goes, you can't win them all. And then John McGrath turns around to me, he goes, 20 grand, you better effing perform, son. Oh, God. So that was it.
Well, you didn't at the start of your first season. 1 win in 13, 87, 88. Didn't start well, did it?
We didn't start well, and they just got promoted as well. And I started, and I thought, well, dropping down division would be easy, like, but it wasn't. It was on the AstroTurf as well. But we finished kind of stronger, didn't we?
So it was round about the second season, maybe, second or third season that the Astro had just been. So what was that like?
Oh, it was horrific. You know, oh my God, I wanted to be popular with the fans.
So it didn't put you off, the fact that?
No, because I wanted the 7 mile commute. And I used to like slide tackling. But you see, I wanted to be liked by the fans. So I thought, if you slide tackle on the AstroTurf, okay, you will be scarred for life, but you will be popular. So I did loads of slide tackle. So I was very popular with the Preston fans, but quite badly scarred now on the sliding bits, like, you know. So I played 4 years there, and I really enjoyed it. But then you've got the worry of, oh, I'm 31, 32, oh, my legs, I've had a couple of operations, broke my arm, knees, and all that. You know, you feel like you're slowing up. When's it going to end? When's it going to end? And then one day, it all came to a horrific conclusion. We was playing at home against, I can't remember who it was. We was losing 1-0 and there was about like 1 minute to go and we won a corner. Everybody piled forward for the last stitch corner, except me, Mr. Reliable, back on the halfway line. Anyway, the ball's sent into the box as a massive goal-mouth scramble. Then eventually it's cleared, a huge booming clearance, goes over my head and it's going down our sideline towards our corner flag. So I turn and running after the ball like mad. But you know when you know, Neil, that somebody's chasing you, and you know when he's catching you.
Quicker.
Well, exactly. I'm pumping away my arms and my legs and that. He's closing me down like, you know. My legs, I've got nothing in them now. I'm flailing now. I'm losing all my form. I can hear his footsteps now getting louder and louder. I've got nothing left to give. Finally, I can hear his breathing. He's on my shoulder. Just in the nick of time, I managed to toe the ball out for a throw-in. And there's a huge groan goes round the ground. And I looked up. It's an effing linesman. And that's when you, and Neil, that's when you know it's time to call it a day. But then I went to Halifax. I'm now studying to be a physio. I'm at Halifax. It's fantastic, Neil. I'm out with the players, joining in, running, winning the cross countries. I haven't got to play at the weekend, so perfect job.
Before we touched on Halifax, because you were manager, player, physio, which I think could be the only player to have ever done that. Before we touch on that, let's stay on Preston. The goals you scored, I've got it down as 1 in your first season. Can you remember it? 2 in your second, didn't score in your third, and 1 in your fourth. Can you remember any of these goals? Who were they against?
The first goal was against Bristol City. It was a cross. So
at Deepdale, was it? Or?
Yeah, it was on the AstroTurf.
It was a cross.
Yeah, it was on the. You're the first person I've confided in this, so I hope nobody listens to this.
There's no footage
of
it.
There's no PNE Pod exclusive.
No. So we're playing Bristol City. It's a very windy day, and we're on the AstroTurf. And I'm the in-swinger with the left foot from just outside the box. So I hit the ball, and the wind gusted it into the back of the net. So that was my first goal, complete fluke.
Would Moisey have been playing for Bristol City at that time?
I wonder.
I think he might have been.
That would be interesting. Yeah, I'm not so sure about that. I scored a goal at Mansfield as well later on. I scored a goal at home against Mansfield, which was a fluke.
You've just named 3, so there's only 1 more to name.
And 3 of them were all flukes, apparently.
Well, the fourth goal was a very neat finish at Bristol City. I sneaked in at the far post and tapped it.
So you scored 4 goals and 2 were against the same team, Bristol City and Mansfield.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah.
That's unbelievable. I softened them up. So
can we play you every week?
Yeah, kind of stuff. So my memories of Preston is that we had quite a good team, fabulous club, AstroTurf, horrific. And you know, so it would freeze as well, the AstroTurf and that.
And the game was on.
And what the grounds would do, he put salt on the surface. Now, the good thing was you could slide tackle, get a grass burn, and have it cleaned at the same time. So there was an advantage to that.
So come on, some of the teammates. Gary Brazil got 20 goals in your first season.
Oh,
Tony Ellis, 20 the following season.
Tony Ellis.
Joyce. Sure.
All really good players, good friends of mine. I worked with Gary at Forest. He was at Forest. Tony Ellis was youth team coach. My son was at Rochdale. I worked with Warren at Man United. I worked as his head physio at Wigan. So all these people.
How different were they when they weren't players?
Gamekeeper turned poacher. No, they're good guys. We're all part of a really good team. They all work now in kind of different facets. They've all been very, very successful. I think Tony Ellis left Rochdale. He's Northwest scout for a Premier League club now. Big Sam I've seen many times over the years. When I worked for the England teams, Big Sam was a manager and that. I bumped into him.
You played with Big Sam at Preston. Osher Williams as well.
Osher, yeah. I spoke to Osher a couple of weeks ago. He's at the PFA now. So all these people keep hitting in and out of your life and that. But it was a good time, as I say. Preston's the only club I played for and physio for, so it has that kind of special place in my life. But then when I left Preston after the horrible linesman experience, all of a sudden, this guy who was a straight-A student at grammar school. This guy who was a straight-A student, would have been a doctor, highest marks in the whole grammar school, right? He's now got no money, a young family, no savings. And all the people who gave you your man of the match, who said, Baz, when you finish, I'll give you a job, they've now lost my number and they're not phoning. I'm now in a tight position. What am I going to do? I don't know. I was incredibly lucky. The PFA started this initiative to get ex-pros to become chartered physios. And I was, looking back now, my God, I was so lucky to be on that very, very first cohort with people like Nigel Atkins and stuff like that. So I was very, very lucky. And then that's how I verged onto becoming a physio.
Did you have physios when you played? So we're talking about these injuries.
Magic sponge.
Was it
back
just
then,
a magic
wasn't
sponge?
it?
I mean,
It was, and when I came here as a player, we had Harry Hubbick, who's an absolute legend here. And if you went into Harry and you said to him, you've got any kind of injury, range from a sprained ankle to just not feeling very well, he'd pass you a tub of Vic and he'd say, "Oh, eat that." And that was it. The total extent of the physio was to eat the tub of Vic. But to be fair to Harry, and when I see it now with all the stuff for all the clubs and all the people on all the tables and all the injuries, there is part of me that does wander back to that slightly different approach, that kind of old school stuff and that. Because if you look at the stats of teams in the 60s and 70s, clubs are playing 70 games, winning doubles with the same 11, 12 players. Now, you might say, yeah, but the game was so, yeah, but it's not quite, there's so much more to it than that, you know. It's very, very interesting if you look at those kind of stats. So that's what it was like then.
Your book, or one of your books, is called The Smell of Football.
Yeah.
Now, as a physio, you're smelling deep heat.
Yeah.
You're smelling
Yeah.
the medical room. You're probably smelling the grass as you're walking into the ground. That's quite an interesting term for a book. I mean, I guess from your experience to have been in all of these different roles at a football club, do you have a favourite? Do you prefer being a physio? Is it more fun than being a player? Is it your favourite job of them all?
I much prefer being the physio than a player, because you get all the involvement, but you haven't got to go through the... Even when I got to Blackburn and I played every game I wanted to play, and that I was still a very nervous player. And I sit in dressing room with players who are not nervous at all. You've been there, Neil. And I hated and resented those players because... I'm nervous and I'm sweaty and I didn't sleep very well last night, and when I woke up it's like a ton of bricks. Oh my God, we're playing Blackpool this afternoon and that. And then other players, like Brian Mooney, he'd come in and me and Warren and Joyce used to be like, jogging up and down. Oh God, please rain, please snow, please something, just anything. People like Brian Mooney would be sat reading the programme, and then the buzzer would go off at 2:55 and he'd get out and be the best player on the park, not a nerve in his body. And I really, really envied that guy. Because, as you say, as a physio, you haven't got all that kind of stuff. The title is a double entendre, because it talks about those smells, those evocative smells that even now if I close my eyes I can still experience from all those years ago. And it's also about the other side of football. It's that fear, it's that coming out the game with no money, it's the injuries, it's having to work 7 days a week to be a physio and that. So it's kind of a double entendre.
Neil Mellor scored! Preston take the lead! And that's exactly what it means to Neil Mellor to score in the West Lancashire derby.